So another area where AI is often discussed is the personalization and learner support. I've heard this so much among my team and with other designers. So, Dwayne, how can AI help designers create more personalized, adaptive, or practice-based learning experiences? You even mentioned problem-based in one of our last ones, so feel free to kind of talk about that too as well.
Yeah, so when we're looking, one of the things we talk about in adult learning, right, is the idea of having authentic tasks, right, that are relevant. So this tool can actually help do that, right? So you can take stuff and you can help develop some of those scenarios. One of the things I've done with the tool that's been pretty successful is building branching scenarios. Where before AI, building a branching scenario was a pretty heavy lift because you got to factor in all the different decisions and start breaking out the tree, right, and working all that, and then build that into a system, right, into Captivate or Storyline or something. That's a pretty significant lift. But I could build a branching scenario in minutes now. That you put in your feedback, it gives you a response, and it starts branching out, and then you can have it and analyze your decision making, right, as you're going through it. So I think there's a lot of potential there, and that ends up being very personalized to the user because they're inputting, it's reflecting off exactly what they're putting in. Where we have to be careful is if the system is not developed where there's guardrails, like you said, it could go way outside of trying to the outcome you're trying to achieve, that learning outcome. So we can't lose that focus on achieving that learning outcome. However, we're using the tool, that tool's being used to achieve that learning outcome. So we we got to think about that. Another piece that I kind of think about this tool is if it's done right. One of the things, and is if you send somebody's got to do work on their own where they don't have an expert in the room, and they're working through something and they're struggling. These intelligent tutor systems, right? You're going to get
Mm,
immediate feedback when you need
right.
it, and not only is that, I think, going to help prevent, like, maybe developing bad habits, or but it's also going to help with motivation, right? You're not as frustrated. You don't feel like you can't do it. You're getting the support and the scaffold help when you need it. In that time, if a because I know in my realm, right, in the asynchronous environment, if a student struggles, they send me an email. Well, I might not see it right away, even though I try to respond like within an hour. But then it might take time to set up a meeting where we can talk about and help them. So you have already like extended that help timeline just because of availability. Where this tool, if it's done right, could be immediately available to
I like
aid that
that.
student. So I think there's some potential there, but again, it's doing it the right way, right, and doing it in a way that still allows that cognitive effort, right, and augments achieving that outcome, right, and just doesn't replace,
Right.
which is
Absolutely.
nuanced, right? It's super nuanced, and it's a challenge. And,
Mm-hmm.
and and the answer is always, I think it depends, right? What is all the
Yeah.
context? And
That's so true, Dwayne. Absolutely. And do you think that some of these authoring tools like Captivate, Storyline, do you think they need to have like those limitations built in where it says like the tool should not do the or the branching scenario should not go this route. This is where we build in our guardrails or where do you think that should kind of live for the designer so that they can have those proper guardrails in place or the do's and don'ts, right?
yeah,